Hey guys, welcome back to another Booktober book video. And for those of you who are not aware of what Booktober is this series challenge that I'm doing for the month of October, where I basically read a book every day for October. Not actually every day. I obviously plan these ahead because filming and editing takes time. So I usually I pick out these books that are supposed to be either mystery or spooky or something that is very much autumn adjacent, something that's maybe like dark academia, which I've had my run-in with before. And recently I did like a noir, that one was good. And I don't know, this has just been a very learning experience, a very big learning experience for me in terms of what books I do and don't like. And the one that I'm talking about for today's Booktober book video is called Beautiful Creatures. In case you guys are not aware, I mean, I'm not sure if people still remember this or something. I just know that it was something back in the early 2000s, maybe 2010s and stuff like that, when this book was actually a thing. And not a lot of people talk about it anymore, and I'm I guess the longevity of this book wasn't as long as Twilight, I guess, because nobody talks about it anymore. But it's called Beautiful Creatures by Garcia and Margaret Stohl. So it's by them. And if you are not aware of the story behind Beautiful Creatures, if you missed it when it was published and came out in the 2010s or so, Beautiful Creatures is basically, it's really Twilight, honestly, but gender bent. And if you actually liked this book and the series that it follows, and if you're offended by that, then go home, because I'm really about to lay one on. Spoiler alert, I didn't hate this book, but I did find it formulaic to me personally. And the reason why is because, again, like I said, it kind of mimics gender bent Twilight. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by gender bent Twilight? I mean, it has all the components, ingredients of what paranormal YA romances were back in the 2010s, and it really shows. Everything about this book had so many tropes that kind of dated itself, and I was just kind of ooh, because the thing is, there's a guy. A guy, obviously. This is actually set in the South. So there's this guy named Wate who lives in his little southern town of Gatlin, and he hates it here. He wants to leave. He's got, roaming feet, etc. He just wants to leave this place behind, and everything. And there's this new girl in town who comes over, and the thing about her, her name's Lena Duchannes or something like that. Lena Duchannes, and it's the surname is supposed to be French, but I can't pronounce that for the life of me, so I'm just going with what I think it is, Duchannes. And basically she is new in town, obviously, and not only is she new, but she also comes from this really strange family, who are supposed to be, I guess, again, this is set in a southern town, so it's kind of they're the Boo Radley of this town. And if you're not aware of who Boo Radley is just a recluse that shows up in To Kill a Mockingbird, and that the townspeople in To Kill a Mockingbird basically are scared of him and also ostracize him. And so that's that family, the Duchannes family. And Lena's new in town and everything, and she's I'm new in town, etc., right? And Ethan is wow, she's so pretty, drop dead, she is so gorgeous. And I'm yeah, she really is, yeah. But it's also one of those things where I never realized, I guess it's all about perspective, because I never realized some things in Twilight were weird until like it was translated in a like gender bent version, because of the fact I mean, like, yeah, no, Twilight is not, I don't think it's a romance per se. I think like people read it for the Pacific Northeastern or Northwestern, sorry, the Pacific Northwestern Gothic vibes and stuff. I don't really think it's like the greatest romance out there. Maybe people disagree, but I do think it's a very good Gothic tale. I guess I won't call it a romance, so sue me. But it's very good at what it does in like lending that kind of voice, that kind of tone. And when I was reading Beautiful Creatures, I felt much the similar, except like it's a different locale, obviously. It's the South, and me being a little Southern girl, Florida born and raised, I was kind of like reading this book, and whenever like they talked about storms or like rain and stuff like that, I was like, oh, don't we know it? Like, you know, with my little Southern card. Yes sir, yes sir. Like, it's true though, it rains a lot. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the fact that it was like a Gothic Southern. I think like it's really cool to see like different locales, I guess, different parts of North America in general. Like I was reading Mexican Gothic. Sorry, Mexico's in Central America, but like it's just like really cool to see all these like different places and having like a Gothic spin on them. Like they can still have their weather patterns, they can still have their specific setting nuances, atmospheres, while still having that little twist of like, this is just a little bit like Gothic, a little bit creepy, a little bit ooky spooky for this season. And honestly, I just feel like we should be doing this with other places, just because, like, you know, one place should not be the owner of Gothicism or whatever. Like, you know, we could all be Gothic in our own ways. Even tropical islands, we should start doing that. Like tropical islands being Gothic Tropicana. Like, imagine. Oh, anyways, I'm getting sidetracked, but yeah, no, this book I feel like lent to some Gothic Southern vibes and stuff like that, and I think that this is a step in the right direction for sure. And I will give the book that. I will give that to them. However, when it comes to the everything else in this book, I was just kind of sitting there and I realized that maybe I had some of my biases towards Twilight, and I probably should have actually considered all of the things that happened in Twilight in a more objective stance. Because when considering Bella as the like male protagonist and Edward as the female protagonist, I think there was an actual like spin-off like that, but like when considering all of that, you realize like the codependency was always weird. The codependency was always like strange and very much toxic. But it's really, really weird whenever it's a guy that keeps on ogling this girl who obviously doesn't want to talk to people like that, or who is obviously being bullied by others and stuff, and he just keeps ogling her and comes to her rescue, defends her because he's her white knight in shining armor. It's just got like that like twinge of weird, honestly. Like, I'm not saying Bella and Edward's whole like beginning and honestly like throughout, I guess, relationship was all sunshine and rainbows and like the sweetest, most wholesome thing I've ever seen. Like, no. Bella was weird too, for always being on Edward's case and being like, what color are his eyes? Are they like amber or are they like rose? You know, like she was always like wondering stuff about him, and I was like, girl, like I don't even know what color some of my other friends' eye colors are. Like I'm so glad that my family's got like the easy eye color, which is just dark eyes. Like, thank goodness, because I don't think I'd be able to handle it if like they were hazel and I had to like actually pick and choose which color I see. No, like that's hard enough as is. But she's always, you know, on his case and stuff like that. And Ethan is also always on Lena's case. He's always like, oh my gosh, like her eyes are like an electric green, not just any green. electric green, and her hair is like so dark and black, and her lashes are so thick and long, etc, etc. And I'm like, okay, it's one of those things where I'm kind of like, I sit there and I'm like, all right, that's a lot of detail, but okay. But it's like every 5 minutes being rehashed again and again, and I just kind of feel like at that point it's a little bit obsessive. Honestly, it's a little bit creepy how Ethan is always on about Lena, and he's like, I need you guys to know that she's hot. Like, I need to remind you though that she's hot. Did you forget that? Did you remember? She's hot, right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, she's always hot. And sometimes when the rain hits the angle of the light a certain way with her eyes, they look kind of chartreuse. And it's like, boy, nobody cares. Those types of features, those types of descriptions and stuff like that could work if it was done in a way to lend some kind of ghoulish, creepy mood or something like that. Like, if you were reiterating the same description at me like 47 different times, I need to be able to see it in a different light at the very least. Like, what is with, and like Twilight did this as well, but like the thing is, Twilight would do this with like Edward's eye colors, and they like, Bella would be like, it changes and stuff like that. And yeah, it's because he's a vampire, duh. In retrospect, of course, Bella didn't know this, but it's like, I guess like that works, right? But the thing is, it's like, at a certain point, we people in YA, we as the people in YA need to stop using eye color as the only indicator of something dark lurking or some type of power lurking, because this book also did that. This book was like, yeah, no, her eyes changes into a brighter color whenever it rains or whatever, or whenever like something like a natural disaster, or like she's like about like to explode and her powers are being used and blah blah blah, right? Okay, yeah, no, like her eyes change color, whatever. But the thing is, it's like, is it always have to be an eye change? Like an eye color change and stuff like that? Does it always have to be that? Like, guys, what about like, maybe her veins grow darker? Ooh, varicose veins? Like, yes, like, that is so gothic. You can't even lie. You can't tell me any different. That's so gothic. You could do varicose veins. You could do, bloodshot eyes. Oh my gosh, instead of eye color changing, it starts to like, the veins around the eyes start to burst and explode and they just become bloodshot. Guys, that is so creepy. And I sound insane saying this, but like, it would be so much better. I feel like if you were going for like a change in eyes, you could be doing that instead of like eye color change real quick. It's like, okay. All right. Ooh. Glow in the dark hands. Think about it. Whenever they're using their powers, their hands glow, and you can literally see the imprint of like the thumbprints and stuff like that. And like you could see like the little veins and stuff as they like are and stuff. Like, you know how like whenever you shine a flashlight through flesh, and sometimes you can see the little capillaries and stuff. That, but whenever they're using their powers. Like, guys, I'm literally giving ideas and nobody's taking them. I don't know why they're not taking them. Like, nobody's brave enough. But it's okay, it's all right. Either way though, this book did really feel like a Twilight adjacent book, and just like a YA paranormal urban fantasy type of book in general, because again, of all like the very cliche elements in this book, I think the only thing that I really liked about like this specific in terms of, not in terms of like the actual paranormal like part of it, just like the actual like tropes that are being used and stuff, is the Boo Radley thing. The whole Boo Radley thing, the whole like the townspeople are scared of this family, but also they're like scared to say anything else to this family. It's like, I like that. I like the ostracization that an entire family faces, and that they're kind of like the boogeyman of this town. Like, I love that aspect. Everything else, again, it felt very much like a high school movie. It felt like a high school movie with all your little cliques and stuff like that, and Ethan Wate like looking down on all these cheerleaders. Obviously he looks down on anybody in his town who perpetuates the Southern stereotype, which there are many, and he's obviously the only cool guy there. I'm not getting heated, honestly. Some places I'm like, yeah, it's very stereotypical, but you know, it's just one of those things where he really has no love for where he's from, and I'm like, I don't think you should be talking, honestly. Like I really don't, because you benefit from this whole Southern society and everything like that. But you know, he's all about Lena and her being new and different, and oh my gosh, she's so exotic, she's from another place. Where have you been, Lena? Where have you been? And everything. And it's just like so weird. It's just like, it gives off the vibe of like those guys that try to hit on you at bars or something, or try to shoot their shot whenever you're drunk and stuff, and it's like, I don't want you near, get away. I mean, I guess that you gotta like have like a lot of courage and bravery, but it's just like whenever people are very uncomfortable by it, or like it's very obvious that they're not here to pick up anybody, they're just here for a drink or here with their friends and they're just here to be with them, it's so uncomfortable. Like that whole vibe is uncomfortable. They could be like the nicest guy ever, whatever, right? But like, it's just like when that happens, the atmosphere is just not it, you know? And this book was just not it. The atmosphere was just like that the entire time because of Ethan. When it comes to the actual like paranormal aspect of everything, this book differs from Twilight in the sense that Lena Duchannes, her whole family, they're not vampires, they're actually witches. And yes, I know, just the other day, just yesterday, I was reviewing a book about a family of witches in a small town. Sue me. So I read the same book twice, basically. Whatever, who cares? But this book this book did it better in the sense that they actually did have their own powers. Each person has their own specific unique power instead of like an elementalism to it. Me personally, I just think that having elements in your magic system, you got to do it a certain way for it to be like new and entertaining and fresh and interesting. Because I mean, like, some people really do try to push that elemental aspect and stuff like that, and some people forget about that elemental aspect, and it's just one of those like things that are like hit or miss, honestly, because of the way that people, they can sometimes use elements as a lazy power, like magic system, power for their magic system, and it really is a hit or miss oftentimes. And in this case, they did not use elements like that, like in that sense. So I will give the book this, I will give the book that. They actually did come up with unique powers and honestly interesting casts of characters for the Duquesne family and stuff like that. Like, it was actually worth something to read about when it comes to them. When it comes to the romance itself, boy oh boy, was it not as developed as I would have liked. They really became like ride or die, destined to love each other in like very ordinary circumstances. Very, very much typical me going to high school. Oh my gosh, like I see a girl, I like a girl, and it's like now we're tied to our souls. I'm like, I guess. No, you can't gaslight me. No, not really. Because I've actually come to the realization that I'm actually not a romance hater. It's just that I'm a romance connoisseur, if you will. I like my romances a specific way, and I actually have a high respect for romance, and that is why I like them when they're developed and when their characters and the character motivations actually make sense. And this did not have that. And then the book tried to like push this whole like they were destined to love each other type of narrative by having them like have like memories of their past lives. And I'm like, if you need to have backstory in order to sell me a romance. If you couldn't like actually just develop it on the pages here, and instead you're just like, bro, trust me, they knew each other. Bro, trust me, they knew each other. Then I'm not going to be on board with the romance. And guess what? This book did that. So guess what? Guess how I felt about the romance in this book. And the thing is, I wouldn't complain about it as much if the romance wasn't a big part of this book. Like, it's a big deal because it brings Ethan and Lena together, and honestly, like, it really is the only like link between them, aside from their whole like, oh, past lives I can see and I have dreams of like your ancestors and stuff like that. And it's kind of problematic because Lena's like the Duquesne family, I believe like they owned a plantation. So yeah, that is really problematic. And I will say, like, as a resident southerner, as a Florida-born Floridian, yeah, that's a whole nest of eggs. That's a whole box of worms, can of worms, there you go. Can of worms that you don't want to open and you don't ever want to talk about. And I'm like, like, it's nice to see southern, like, gothic southern gothics and stuff like that, but at the same time, remembering what happened in the South, it's like, you can't even have that unless, of course, you were from Florida and you learned about the story about, you know, Ponce de Leon and how he tried to search for the Fountain of Youth. Like, we could be talking about like that kind of mysticism and stuff. Or I guess like in Louisiana as a Southern Gothic like area, like I feel like that's prime Southern Gothic. That's like literally like that is the definition of Southern Gothic. Louisiana, the whole state of Louisiana, really. Honestly, like everything that encompasses Louisiana, that's it. I'm like really digressing, but again, Louisiana has that swamp feel that like you could really be doing something with that, and you could actually be like doing it with love though, because I wouldn't actually trust this book to describe Louisiana in a very nice tone because of the way that it employs every other Southern stereotype, and then it just like doesn't like those stereotypes. I guess it just like is made and done really to make fun of these Southern stereotypes and stuff without actually feeling like something outside of that kitschy, gimmicky place that it crafts, I guess, that setting that it makes and builds up. It honestly kind of feels like the setting is a prop, and not in a good way because of the fact that nothing feels lived in nothing feels like true, I guess, in that lived in sense. It really is all these Southern stereotypes. And the thing is, I know before people come in and are like, stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason, blah 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 blah, what have you and whatnot. Okay, fine, stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason. The thing is though, if you rely on those stereotypes too heavily, then you're not going to actually be able to tell the difference between this town that you've built versus any other Southern town. Honestly, like, it's like, okay, what's so special about Gatlin? What do they got? What do they have that sets them apart? Because if you're gonna make a Southern town, a Southern small town, and you're like, yeah, no, this is like every other Southern small towns out there, then like it's not gonna be memorable to the mind's eye and stuff. So there's also that. Again, with the whole problematic aspect of setting things like in the past, I just feel like, I feel like Southern Gothic works if you're not going to incorporate the past in a way that is intrinsically linked to these white characters. Because again, I don't think you knew this. Lena, the Duquesne family, they are white, and that's why they own the plantation and stuff like that. And I just feel like that's like, I feel like if you're going for Southern Gothic and everything, you could actually talk about like the plight of freed and enslaved peoples and how, like, you know, you could actually have a Black protagonist. You could actually have that. Like, what if, just a thought, what if we actually talked about these stories, make sure that they get remembered, instead of all these Confederate soldier-like-esque, I guess, like, immortals that are in YA for some reason. They pop up in YA. Like, for example, you say, wait, like, there's not a lot of Confederate immortals, Confederate monsters in YA. Certainly, you're silly. No, because y'all remember Jasper from Twilight? He was a Confederate soldier. Y'all remember him? He was a Confederate soldier. Y'all remember the Salvatore brothers from, not Diary of a Wimpy Kid, what is it? Vampire Diaries. Yeah, I'm going for Vampire Diaries. I'm going for the neck. They were Confederate soldiers. Oh, people don't remember this. Oh, people don't remember this. Stefan and Damon, like, they were Confederate soldiers in their past life. And I'm like, guys, what is up with that? I just don't get it. It's actually, there are video essays on why that is, because it's actually like a phenomena for some reason. But it's just so weird and like it takes you out for a bit, because you're like, what in the world is this? And contrary to popular belief, not all Southerners are for the Confederacy. I know, shocking. I know. Like, I don't know why this whole video diverged into like a talk about like Southern culture and stuff like that, but I just feel like this book really had nothing else to offer. Like, it was other than like, oh my gosh, witches and stuff like that. It was so bland and so long. Why was it so long? Like, why was it so long and so bland? And honestly, like I said, it did remind me of Twilight a bit in that sense, because of how long Twilight was and how bland it was, but it was bland on account of Bella not really feeling like a character and more like a narrator, honestly, the entire time. Oh, I'm gonna upsetty spaghetti some people, but yeah, it's true. That's how I felt when I was reading the book. What am I gonna say? What am I gonna do about it? And what are you gonna do about it? And, you know, it's just one of those things where I guess if you are nostalgic for a time before when everything was very cookie cutter and formulaic and very much the same, and nobody said anything about it and just walked on and side-eyed but walked on, this book is for you. And if you have read this book before, let me know what it was like reading this book, because I actually have not met a lot of people who have read this book at all. So just write it down in the comments what you thought about this book, and I'll see you next time.